Okay, this is Animation 101, Part 3, Timeline. We're going to talk more about the timeline and setting keys within the timeline. More specifically, we're going to go over the auto key again, setting attributes within a key, which is you have your channel box open, different hotkeys, different methods, like holding pose, which is middle mouse button, which I'll demonstrate a little later. The playback buttons, right here, we're going to go over those items. We're going to go over a step back and forth, which is basically stepping through the keyframes and then how to step through each keyframe, and the different methods on the timeline and how to manipulate your keyframe. Simple selection, moving, scaling groups of keys, what a tick frame is and why we don't like them, and snapping keys, copying and pasting keys, and deleting keys. Probably a little bit more as well as I go because some of the stuff I may forget and want to throw in there. So let's just jump right into this. This is a ball. Right now, as you can see, nothing's keyed in my channel box. If I press S, it'll key everything. I'm going to undo that so nothing's keyed. And I'm just going to go straight into auto key. I make sure I have my auto key on. Obviously, if I have my auto key on and I move my object, it will key my object. Only reason it won't key it is if I don't have nothing keyed. So in order for it to key it, I have to have something keyed, or I have to have a specific item keyed. So let's say I'm going to work with just the translation, and I only want the translation to be keyed and auto keyed throughout this whole process. There's different methods. Right now I'm going to use a Shift+W, and then I'm going to set a key. And what this does, oops, I gotta have the timeline selected. Shift+W, if I press Shift+W, it'll set a key, but look, it only sets it on the translation. And if I move it with my auto key, it's only going to set keys on what's already keyed in the channel box. So if I go to rotate this, it's not going to set a key. So just real quick, shortcuts for all the different channel boxes. You got your Shift+W, which will do the translation. If I do Shift+R, it will key my rotation. Shift+E, or my scale. Shift+R is scale. Shift+E will actually do the rotation. A little backwards. And if you want to get in real depth with it, you can go and change your hotkeys. That's another topic. But for right now, those are the basic shortcuts for setting keys. Most likely a scale we don't use as much. I don't use as much. Most of the rigs have built-in scale attributes. But just for those basic things, if you're doing basic animation, you can use those hotkeys to make your selections or key. So one thing I want to show you, I'm going to go ahead and set a key on all, right here on 0. Then I want to move this up here, and it's going to set a key up there. It's a little trick. I actually do not even know the name of this, but what it does is say I want frame 14. I'm going to move it over here. I want frame 14 to be exactly, I want this exact pose on frame 30. I could easily just copy that keyframe and pop it over here, but if I middle mouse click and just hold it and drag, and if you notice, nothing is moving up here. If I let go and I drag, things are moving. So if I middle mouse click on frame 14 and drag this frame 30, let go, and press S, it's actually going to keep the position that I had it at frame 14. And this goes for anything. If you just hold it, the middle mouse button down, and you like this, say you got a pose over here you want to put exactly over here without having to copy the frame and then set it over there. It's a simple, quick shortcut. Boom. I really never copy frames to get the same position over here. 90% of the time, I'll select everything I need, middle mouse click, drag it to the next position, press S, and it'll key all the attributes that are already keyed, and it'll hold that same exact pose. Now, let's go over a little bit of our playbacks, which is right in here. All of our playback materials are right in here. There's shortcuts and everything for this as well. But for the first start is this very first button here. It just brings you back to the very beginning of the time frame, like a rewind button, an instant rewind. And then the very last one pops you to the very last frame you have in your timeline. Now the button next to these which are the step back buttons, which just goes by frame. You go either one, go right or left, and then the ones after that with the little red line, that means they'll step to the next key. So if I press on this one, it'll go to the next key, and vice versa with this. Go play backward, forward. And then the very middle buttons are your playbacks. You can play backwards or you can play forward. Now the shortcut, which is ironically for the step key, is your little greater or minus signs on your keyboard. Press either or to go back and forth. And that's very helpful when you're doing blocking animations. You just want to pop from one frame to the other just to see the difference. But then see later on, you want to actually do the same thing with your keyframes. If you want to go from keyframe to keyframe to keyframe without having to click on these buttons or these buttons here to do it, you will hold down Alt and basically use the same keys, which basically is common period, but the greater or minus, and go back and forth. I believe on the Mac, it's the command button, I believe, on the Mac. But it's whatever you use for a shortcut. It's the same thing on the Mac. So this is what you use on a PC, basically, is your Alt, and then your Pac-Man signs. I call my Pac-Man your greater minus signs. And if they're on a different keys, it'll be your comma and your period sign on your keyboard. And those come in very handy when you're toggling through animations. So moving on to the next thing. What am I got in here? Oh, one thing I want to throw out too is sometimes you'll be working in your window. Say you're working in this window and your timeline is way down here, and it's like, oh, I just want to scrub through this to see what this looks like, to see what my animation is looking like. You can hold down K and then right click. Is that right click? Yeah, right click, and it will toggle through the timeline for you. So you don't have to worry about coming down here every time to see if it moves. You can easily hold down K, get in whatever viewport you want, and then hold down your right. Oh, I'm sorry, my left. I get my right. It's my right mouse, but with my left key, my left mouse button. My goodness. So you want to hold down your left, and then you can scrub back and forth through your timeline without actually having to go down to the timeline. That comes in very, very handy when you're working on multiple animations. So after one of the things after learning those things, getting familiar with it, is you want to deal with how to work with the keys within the timeline. The biggest thing I always get, and I still even have issues with, sometimes just moving a simple keyframe. Like if I want this keyframe to be on 24 versus 22, selecting it. Now selecting is very different in a way that obviously in a viewport you just click on something and select it. Here, if you click on anything, you don't select anything. You have to actually hold Shift, click in the area, and this actually selects the keyframe right before it. If I click right here, which is right before frame 18, if I select right here, oops, I put Shift and I click once, it doesn't select anything. In order to get the keyframe, you got to select basically in front of it, which this means it's key 22, and I select it. That means I got that keyframe and I can move it. Now the way you would move it is first you would Shift, left click, selects the key. Then you see these little arrows down here. The very middle ones allow you to move it back and forth. The very edge ones, if you have multiple keys, will stretch them. It's almost like it's scaling from wherever you have selected, scaling from this point to there, and then vice versa on this one. So to select multiple keys, you'll do the same thing. You'll hold down Shift, but you'll Shift drag with your left key, or left mouse button. And then that'll allow you to select multiple keys. But within those keys, or within there, you can still drag and scale these keys accordingly by grabbing the little arrows at the end, or moving all of them at the same time by moving this, the arrows at the middle. The issue you have with both of these items is once you start scaling them, you do what we call a tick frame, and if you click on it, you'll notice that it's 25.66. And the only way you can actually select these frames, you can't even point on to select them. You have to use your step back keys to actually get the actual number. So you want all your keys to be on whole numbers. The reason you don't want them on tick frames like this, if you get another frame that's pretty close to it, every time you go to try to select that frame, you can't. It makes it difficult for you to select that actual key. So one way to fix this is what we call snap key. So what you do here is most of the time, if I ever select a group of keys and I start scaling them like this to get the timing better, I'll go back, select them again, right click, and go to snap. This will snap all keyframes. It will try to snap all keyframes to a whole number. And you'll see that sometimes you'll have to go in specifically and try to snap them. And then multiplying, if it does not work, the best thing to do is just find a whole number, set a key around it, and just delete the other keys. Because what's happening is it's trying to snap all the rotations, because like your translation and your rotations, and in different translations like your X, Y, and Z's, they could be at different keys within that point decimal, and Maya does not like that, and it just gets everything really flustered, and you will learn to not like it if you continue to work that way, because it's going to just cause little minor issues. But that's how you snap your keys. You want to practice that regularly so that you don't fall into those little traps and your keys getting lost everywhere. So let's just move on to get the tick frames with snap keys. Let's copy and paste in frames. As simple as it sounds, is you would basically select, you select that frame, you go up, and there's a copy button. There's copy, there's cut, and there's paste. And you basically do the same thing. You would copy, and then you can paste that same key. Now here's a trick about copying and pasting keys. If I copy a group of keys, and I want to paste these keys, but I don't want to, say, change what the position looks like, you most likely want to paste connected. Paste connected will keep the same general position of what the animation's in, but it will add these keys and move it accordingly. And then pasting it will just literally just paste the keys on top of whatever, and it will just add to those values. It gets a little tricky, so I wouldn't try copying and pasting keys. The best method I like to do is obviously the middle mouse. You just hold it, drag it to whatever location you want, set a key, and there it's done. But if you want to do multiple items, you can obviously copy them, set the range where you want to be, paste these keys, and paste connect. And deleting keys is about as simple as it gets. You just obviously put the time frame on the key, go up to the delete key, press delete. Boom, it's deleted. All right, so as complicated as some of this stuff may be, or as simple as it may be, it is just that. But this is very important to try to learn and understand some of these tools, especially the keying tools, the simple hotkeys. There's more hotkeys out there. I encourage you guys to go search those out. But just to get you started, get you knowledgeable about what you're doing, this should get you on that path. All right, thanks.